It was a sunny normal day in the town when the Tsukiumi were at the beach training some new water techniques and trying to get some new handling on some of the new techniques and abilities that she tried with her water ability. She had been training for herself for the past 2 hours, and she had finally getting hang of some of her new abilities. But after she'd been trained for about 2 hours, she thought she had enough for today and decided to go to the nearby cafe to have something to eat. But when she arrived to the street just nearby the beach, she tripped and hurt her ankle and she couldn't even stand on it. She had no phone on her, so she couldn't call for any help for her friends. And she had no door and there wasn't anyone nearby, so she couldn't help for anyone for help. But suddenly, a car approached and stopped in front of her, and a voice heard, "Do you need any help?" And she looked around and said, yes, she needed some help. And then a door opened, and she saw that the car was empty. Then she wondered who was caught talking to her if the car was empty. But nevertheless, she tried and managed to sit in the car and it drove off to the hospital. At first, during the ride, it was quiet. She then asked who had spoken to her, and suddenly the car filled by the voice of the same as before. "My name is Hoist, and I am the one who talked to you. And I saw you training you were by the beach. You were really impressive by your water skills." She thanked him, but at the same time she was wondering who he is, or what he is, and at least since now he's able to talk to her. He explains that he is an Autobot from the planet Cybertron. He had been in the city for the past 2 weeks. He had been trying to reach out to some of his friends, but no one hasn't able to answer his distress call or his answer for SOS signal, more better speak. He tried to explain that he was in a fight when against his enemy Decepticons, kind of robots similar to his, but they were want to drain Earth's natural resources to be supplies Cybertrons with his own energy. But at the same time, she explained to him that she has never heard of about the called Autobots, Decepticons, or ever heard about Cybertron. He explains no that he knows why. He had been transported to another different Earth than he used to be, since they used the Cybertrons that Decepticons used, some called space bridge. And that was when it became unstable when he was on it trying to push away some Decepticons by trying to force them by not approaching sending more energy back to Cybertron. But when the space bridge became unstable, something happened that it pulled him inside. And next he remembered that he crashed quite a distance from the city itself, and that he has for the past 2 weeks has been trying to reach out to his friends. And that was all he wanted to say for now, because they were at the hospital and he opened the door. There were some people outside that helped her inside. And before he opened, "If you want to talk more to me, you can find me at the air near the abandoned warehouse outside town." And she promised maybe that she would find him out, at least reach him out to find him. But about their first meeting was something that she had much about thought about. Just before he mentioned before let her out, he said, "Don't tell anyone at the moment. They probably don't think they wouldn't believe you." And she was probably right about that. And he had a point. No one would even believe if she tried to tell people that she had been talking to this alien robot disguised as a car. And no one would even believe her, not even friends, even if she hadn't any evidence. So she decided just to let that be by herself. But a week later, after her ankle has recovered, she went to this old warehouse where she found Hoist. He was just sitting there working on some machinery. Some found were located inside the old warehouse. Mostly some old machinery like that. They started to talk more by themselves. Like she explained that she was a human, not a human being, and that she was an alien. That but called Zachary. Because Hoist had mentioned that if she was not even if she was not human, that he remembers that some of his inhuman friends back in his other planet where he came from didn't have these kind of abilities. And she explains that she wasn't a human. But to Tsukumi, she even asked him more about his old friends, how they were like, and he explained that they were a lot of things. Like they had a leader, Optimus Prime, who was like a truck in disguise, but he was a great, fearless leader, and he would do anything to make sure that his team is safe, and even other free planets like Earth in his dimension where he came from. Of course, this we're starting off a new kind of an unusual, different friendship. But one day, there were an accident in town. This building was on fire, and it was on fire, and people were trapped inside, and the firefighter departments could not reach into them. The Tsukumi had been able to reach out to Hoist if asked him if he could be in town quickly to help them, because she knows that he is a hero and he would do anything to protect humans from harm. And he agreed. So he rolled into town, and at the he was there, he actually transformed. As she was also there, she had tried to save these people as much as she could by using some water by put out the fires. But the fight was too much. She was able to only reach out to some of the lower levels of the building because the building itself was like 20 levels floor tall. And she could only be reached levels at almost like 6 to 7 floor. The rest of it was not unable to. But then, Hoist had made a special plan when he came there. Disguised himself first as a car, but she explained that if he could retransform into a robot, it would be better for him to be able to save the people. At first, the people right bystanders were extremely shocked seeing a robot standing in front of them after they saw this car transform into a robot. Before anyone could react, Hoist managed to take off in the air, landed on the roof nearby, and even shoot a cable into the through the wall, and he actually managed to let the Tsukumi went inside with him by using some of the water in a tank he had brought to him. He used the water to put out the fire, while the others said he could see the people inside. So Tsukumi and Hoist managed to save at least all the people on the upper floors, and this brought to an end to the fire when the fire department could also reach inside. Both the Tsukumi and Hoist was declared heroes by the survivors and including bystanders. There were a lot of people who want to ask more about him and like where he's from and why he's there and why he's just used the word. It is why he helped them. And he explained all the details why and why he was there and who he's from and what his name was. Tsukumi though, she stood by the side when he was talking to these people. But then he requested that she would be approached as well because she was one of the heroes, and the people agreed. After all this happened, Tsukumi and Hoist became very good friends. They spent a lot of time together. He even watched her practice on her water skills, and even after all this strange encounter after they first met, Hoist actually started feeling some passionate feelings for Tsukumi. Tsukumi were really much had the same feelings for him. She even admitted that after they first talked. But even there were a lot of things in their nature that probably people would not have expected. or at least expected it would happen, or even believe it. So they kept most of their new relationship a secret. But it wouldn't stay long for this secret until some of Tsukumi's friends like Matsu and some of a few others actually managed to figure out about their relationship. But that didn't stop them though. They were actually just happy that Tsukumi had found someone to be with. Even, just even if it were a little bit strange at first, but they were just happy to see that she is happy. And after they had been together for nearly 4 years, they had decided to just do something else in their lives. At first, even though at first their friends were a little bit skeptical, like some of the others were like, how can they be planning to get married if there was anyone to be able to perform the ceremony? Mamatsu, she knew there was a temple that had a priest that was willing to perform the ceremony. After all, though, Hoist and Tsukumi had done a lot of good things for the people in the city, like saving them from fires and any other disasters. This was at least the priest could do for them after the hit that they had done so much for the city. They had done so much without asking for anything in return. So, after they had actually got married, they actually just disappeared from the city for about almost 2 weeks. They actually went on honeymoon for about a week, but it was still away for another week, only for about just to get some more time to relax. They were exploring the nearby cities on the coastline and went back. But after this happened, there was 2 years after they were engaged, they were married when they both realized there was something missing in their lives. They wanted to have a family, and Hoist had realized there were actually an orphanage in town that they could probably use to maybe ask if it was possible to adopt some children. And the orphanage were actually agreeing with that. So they adopted first two boys, they twins of age 5, and another 4 years later, they adopted a daughter which were also around the same age, about 5. She and her brothers was really excited to have two heroes as parents, especially a robot, and the Tsukumi as also as a mother. She really loved her having a family of her own. Even at first, she didn't like to have a family at first, though. Just there was just before that she got married with Hoist. Hoist himself has never considered him as a father since he never had any children of his own or anything something similar. But he said that to Tsukumi that his old friend Bumblebee was like a brother to him, and he considered him as a brother after they had done so much together. So, considered from Bumblebee as his friend and also he's like a brother to him, he was really happy to have 3 children with Tsukumi. Even at most at first, there were some skepticals among our dear friends how if they were able to take care of 3 children, especially when Hoist was working a few times in a week, and that Tsukumi was also working mostly by as a hero. But they always put the family as first top priority and work at second. They often went on trips on together with the whole family, sometimes in the coastlines and or in the forest for camping or something, just to be get away from the city life from time to time, just to hang out, to be spending some time with the family, some quality time. And even for most of all, even for Hoist though, Hoist really missed his friends back home. But even though he knew there was an impossible way for him to even go back to Cybertron or even out to Earth, since he has no way to rebuild this space bridge. Even if he did, there were no 100% guarantee that he would end up back at the same Earth that he came from. He could only ascend to another Earth or pass a different other planet in the first place. So he then never decided to build another space bridge. Even if he do, but it was only one 50, like 50-50 chance that he will ever return back to the same Earth that he came from. So from that, he decided to remain on this earth with his wife, Tsukumi, and their three children. And for Tsukumi, though, she had never expected to be fall in love with a robot. She believed at first that he didn't have any sort of ability to express any feelings. But that changed after that when they went on their first date, where they saw a movie together in the in the old warehouse. They actually she saw him laughing and pulling some good jokes, and from that moment she realized even if he's a robot, a mechanical life form, he still has a heart. Even if it's not a real heart, but he has a strange feeling that he has a heart and also at the same time feelings that he can express. Which was the truth though. And for that, she fell more in love with Hoist for more than a single day that passed. Even if there were some strange part in the beginning of their relationship that when they her friends found out about them, but she was just still happy that they accepted her, or at least accepted their relationship. And even the public itself was really just really supportive to them, mostly because how they had been saving the city's people for quite some time after disaster to disaster. Sometimes for using accidents on streets or like that, but they were always there to help each other. And even the people were there to support them from their hardships together, like before they were married and they after they had adopted their children. And just all of them were really happy. For for Hoist, this was the best day that he ever could expected to get married and have a family with Sakumi. And Sakumi though, she was just equally happy to be married with the one that she loved the most. He had been there for her so much over the past few years. And for that, she could never expect him to be loving someone else who has been caring, protecting her and their children together. So much that he had been for there for just her and everyone else, including their children, loved their parents so much. They actually loved them so much they couldn't stand to be without them. After they had lost their own family before they even met Hoist and Tsukumi, they were just happy to have a family again. And that's how Hoist and Tsukumi found a true love and got a big family. The end.